Chapter 120. Elvis looked at Gu Mingming's expression and already knew the answer. He could not hide his disappointment, but he could not bear to scold her, so he just pulled Gu Mingming into his arms and pressed his chin against her little head, asking, "Then, what do you call your male partner over there?" Gu Mingming shrunk into Elvis's arms like an ostrich and answered guiltily, "Hubby." "Good girl." Elvis's lips curled into a sly smile. Say that he was lying to himself, say that he was burying his head in the sand, but at the end of the day, he had heard that title from her mouth with his own ears, hadn't he? Gu Mingming blushed. Damn, Leader's tricks were as deep as the ocean. She was tricked by Elvis once again. Didn't they all say that foxes were the cunning ones? Why was it that Leah did not trick her, but Elvis was the one who made her speechless and even felt a little excited? Just as Gu Mingming's little heart was beating wildly, she heard Sandy calling out her name in a wrong tone, "Gu Mingming." Gu Mingming peeked her head out from Elvis's arms to look at Sandy, only to see her looking at her with a wronged expression, looking extremely lovable. Gu Mingming took the opportunity to jump out from Elvis's arms and walk to Sandy, holding her little hand and asking, "What's wrong? Who made our adorable Sandy unhappy?" Sandy looked as if she wanted to cry but was unable to do so, handing the fish in her hands to Gu Mingming. "Try it, Bode made it." Gu Mingming looked at the fish meat. The color was even and the heat was on point. The way it was prepared was obviously the same as hers, even the position of the cross was fixed according to her grilled fish. It also smelled like the burnt smell of honey, and there was even some crystal clear honey hanging on the surface. It was obvious that another layer was applied after grilling. By right, this should have been specially made according to Sandy's preferences, but why did Sandy look like she was not satisfied? Gu Mingming tore off a small piece of meat and placed it in her mouth to have a taste. Once it entered her mouth, her brows furrowed tightly together. Pfft. See, Gu Mingming also finds it disgusting. Sandy was extremely furious. She had used up all the yellow gravy that Gu Mingming had given her just for this roasting water shuttle, but now... Sob sob sob, I don't have any more yellow gravy, am I going to be hungry today? Boo-hoo. Gu Mingming did not know whether to laugh or cry as she coaxed Sandy, the little foodie. She patted her back and comforted her, "It's all right, it's just yellow gravy. I still have a lot with me. If it's not enough, I'll go look for more. With me around, how can I let my adorable Sandy starve?" "Really?" Sandy looked up with a wronged expression and did not let go of Gu Mingming's waist. When she saw Gu Mingming nodding her head seriously, her tears turned into a smile. "I knew that Gu Mingming treats me the best. I like you the most. Bode was so frustrated that he couldn't even lift his head. He had clearly followed Sandy's instructions, so why did she not like the things he made? They looked exactly the same. Gu Mingming didn't expose him. She just passed the fish Bode roasted to him and said, "Food cannot be wasted, you should eat it." Bode understood that Gu Mingming wanted him to taste the problem himself, so he didn't refuse and took a bite of the fish. The moment the meat entered his mouth, Bode's brows furrowed together. "You clearly added a lot of yellow gravy, but why is it bitter?" Aside from the topic, today is the last day of the PK. Those who haven't clicked on the collection button, please click on it. All the comments, please make use of the last moments of the morning to sprint today's question. Chapter 121. Gu Mingming smiled slyly. "Eat the one you roasted first and I will tell you." Males in the beast world were not as delicate as females. What kind of tough bones had they not eaten before? This little bit of bitterness was nothing to Bode. In order to let Sandy eat delicious delicacies in the future, Bode sent the entire fish into his mouth without even blinking. He chewed a few times and swallowed it. Then, he looked at Sandy with a pair of bright and piercing eyes, afraid to miss a single word. Gu Mingming gave her roasted fish to Sandy, then took a fresh one from the ground and let Bode cut open its stomach. She then pointed at one of the innards and said, "Do you see this? This is called the gall bladder. If you accidentally cut it open when you cut it open, then the taste of this fish will be the same as the one you just ate. Bode's eyes almost looked into the fish's stomach, even though the fishy smell made him choke, but for Sandy, he could endure anything. The other males looked at Gu Meng Meng and the rest eating the fish, then looked at the jackals, wolves, tigers and leopards in their hands. After hesitating for a while, no one dared to ask Gu Meng Meng how to eat these things under the pressure of Elvis. Thinking about how Gu Meng Meng said not to waste food, the males skinned their prey and ate it raw according to their usual habits. They looked at Gu Meng Meng while eating. It tasted better than usual even without any processing. But this made Gu Meng Meng pitiful. A bunch of beasts looked at her with green eyes while chewing on the tiger's head and wolf's claws. Their blood-red tongues licked their lips from time to time, scaring Gu Meng Meng so much that she almost ran away. Gu Meng Meng, who was shivering, leaned into Sandy's arms and buried her head into Sandy's shoulder to seek comfort. I will never ask everyone to gather for a meal again. Their table manners are too scary. Sandy shook her head and said, I will never invite everyone for a meal again. Sandy looked around while eating the roasted fish, saying emotionlessly, isn't this how males eat? The males at my place don't eat like this. Gu Meng Meng wanted to cry but had no tears. Gu Meng Meng, tell me about your place. Sandy was extremely curious about Gu Meng Meng's previous tribe, so she touched the honey on her mouth and looked at Gu Meng Meng seriously as she requested. Yeah, sure. Gu Meng Meng thought for a while. She was a girl and there were only two topics that were easiest to talk about, love and shopping. Looking around, he realized that there wasn't even a small town store. Shopping was out of the question. There was definitely no common topic, so he decided to talk about love. So Gu Meng Meng cleared her throat and started to tell Sandy about Korean dramas. Of course, she automatically replaced the male and female protagonists in the story with male and female, and the story she told originated from descendants of the sun. Gu Meng Meng held Sandy's little hand and looked into her eyes with deep affection. She asked in a tender voice, regarding kissing you without permission, should I confess or apologize? Sandy clasped her hands in front of her chest and took a deep breath. She shrugged her round little shoulders and nodded like a chick pecking rice. She wanted to express something, but she realized that her vocabulary was limited by her imagination. This is too much. How can you kiss a female without permission? Moreover, he actually left the female alone at the rendezvous. This kind of male is too useless. Before Sandy could arrange a word to express the emotions in her heart, the meal had already been finished. The males who had transformed into humans had already gathered in a circle, each of them sitting around Gu Meng Meng to listen to her story, as if they were watching old movies in the old countryside. Aside from the topic. Chapter 122. The corners of Gu Meng Meng's mouth twitched as she laughed dryly. The biggest generation gap in the world was not from the present to the past, nor was it the fact that you did not know that I loved you when I was right in front of you. It was the gender gap. It was said that the difference between a man's chromosome and a woman's was even bigger than the difference between a man and a gorilla. In the past, Gu Meng Meng thought that it was nonsense, but now, she believed it. Sandy had obviously become UC Jean's fangirl through the passage of time, so she protested, what do you know, the tribe is in danger, do you still want to continue the date and not protect the tribe? The male who raised the question shrunk his neck, obviously not willing to make Sandy unhappy, so he hurriedly explained, what I mean is, that male left the female alone at the dating spot and ran back to protect the tribe. What if the female is in danger? When there is no one around to protect her, how can he leave the female alone outside? Especially when the tribe is under attack. Before this male finished his sentence, another male followed up, yeah, if Saint Nazir is under attack, we will also fight to the death and be willing to sacrifice our lives to protect the tribe. But the aim of protecting the tribe is to not let the females be harmed, so every time a male has a female in his family, he will leave at least half of the males to protect his own female. For females like Sandy who only have 6 males, the tribe will send more powerful males to join in the protection ranks. Leaving the female alone in a dangerous environment, this male really should not have done it. Hearing that, Sandy was also a little confused. She turned around to look at Gu Meng Meng and asked, "Then why did you see Jean leave Kong Moi Eon alone? Could it be to protect the other females in the tribe?" Gu Meng Meng smiled and shook her head, making up a version that did not belong to descendants of the sun. That battle was too cruel, he did not even know if he could return alive. If he brought Kong Moi Eon along, wouldn't it be equivalent to bringing her into danger too? Instead of dying together, wouldn't it be better to let one of them escape and survive? This question caused the entire place to sink into silence. This seemed to be a question that they had never thought of before because the rules in the beast world were very simple. Attack or defend, win or lose. There was only life and death, success or failure. There was no option to send the females away first. But if they really met an opponent with a great disparity in strength, and even Elvis and Leah could not withstand a single blow from the enemy, then they could send the tribe's females away first, and come back to fight with their lives on the line, buying more time for them to escape. As long as they could escape to any tribe, they would be well taken care of. That way. Elvis, however, felt a tug in his heart. He pulled Gu Meng Meng back into his arms and said in a voice dripping with blood, "The reason why you're still not announcing your first partner is because you're waiting for him to come back, right?" "Ha!" Gu Meng Meng's spine stiffened, completely unable to keep up with Elvis's pace. "Wait for who?" "Your original tribe met with a strong enemy. In order to protect you, he sent you away first and let you escape alone, while he went back to delay the enemy to buy time for you. That's why you appeared in that pond alone and was met by me, right?" Elvis did not even dare to look at Gu Meng Meng's eyes. His heart was in so much pain from being torn apart. It had nothing to do with jealousy, nothing to do with family status, it was just that his heart ached for her to encounter such cruelty in her original tribe. Aside from the topic, this is the last chapter of the PK period. The PK will end this afternoon. Once the results are out, I will immediately share the results with everyone through the author's post. No matter what, thank you all for your support along the way, helping me to comment and come up with questions for the past few days. It's been hard on everyone. Chapter 123. This is what you wanted to tell me just now, right? Elvis pressed Gu Meng Meng against his chest and hugged her tightly. He felt that this was the only way to soothe the burning pain in his chest. "It's all right. From today onwards, I will protect you and take care of you. I will not let you suffer any harm, even if I have to sacrifice my life. If one day he comes, I can give up the position of first partner to him." Gu Meng Meng did not know whether to laugh or cry. She did not expect that one day, she and Yu Jean would form a couple. This was simply a beautiful bubbling joke. No, leader, you've misunderstood. This is someone else's story. I've already said that the female lead is called Kong Moi Eon, not Gu Meng Meng. Your understanding really makes one's heart ache. These few days, you looked like you had a lot on your mind, it must be because of this. Elvis's words were not a question, but a statement. In his heart, he had already confirmed that Gu Meng Meng was the female lead in the story she told. Especially when he thought of how she cried during her coming-of-age ceremony, he was even more certain that she cried then because the male called Yu Jean did not come. If she really hoped that Yu Jean would guard the tower for her, then the position of first partner would naturally not belong to him, Elvis. No wonder she had always been vague and refused to publicly acknowledge him as the first partner. So, this position was left for that person. The more he thought about it, the more Elvis's heart ached. He hated himself for not meeting her earlier. Why did he let that Yu Jean snatch it before him? I swear, I'm really not Kong Moi Eon. Although I know Yu Jean, he doesn't know me at all. This is really just a story. If I'm lying, let the beast deity bring me away. Gu Meng Meng finished her sentence in one breath, then took a deep breath and said, "And leader, if you don't let go, my waist will be broken by you." Elvis then realized the strength in his hand and hurriedly let go of Gu Meng Meng. He frowned and said, "Let me see, are you hurt?" Gu Mingming's breathing was finally smooth. She held on to Elvis's arm and bent over to catch her breath for a while before saying, "I'm fine, luckily you let go in time." Elvis's brows formed a dead knot. Now that he knew that there was a strong opponent, he had to lose his sense of propriety and fear an enemy that had yet to appear. This was really not Elvis's style, but as it concerned Gu Meng Meng, he could not suppress the uncertainty in his heart. "It's okay, I was just joking. Look, I'm fine." Gu Meng Meng noticed his low spirits and patted his shoulders. "Leader, you see Jean really has nothing to do with me. Even if I know him, he has already mated with Kong Moi Yan. There is a mountain range in the Himalayas between us. That is a gap that cannot be crossed. It is impossible for us to have any interaction in this lifetime, so don't worry about it." "All right." However, Elvis's brows did not relax because of Gu Mingming's words. Instead, his ruthless aura lingered in the air. Even someone like Gu Meng Meng, who was slow to react, could feel a strong murderous intent. "Is it because he chose Kong Moi Yan and abandoned you that you wandered alone in the dangerous forest?" Elvis only felt his heart tremble. If he had not found her in time, how long would she have to soak in that pool? What if she met a wild beast? What if she met a stray orc? The more he thought about it, the more terrified he became. Elvis clenched his fists tightly and said, "Where is he? I will kill him to avenge you." Aside from the topic, good news, when 2P was over. Next, it was time for the daily routine of stable updates and recommendations. Then, little babies who want to eat meat, please join the group. 4927799273 Clear Soup Novel lovers, little pure babies who want a 1v1, please don't join. The taste in the group is a little heavy and may not suit you. Chapter 124. Gu Meng Meng was dumbfounded and only understood what was going on after a long while. She immediately rolled on the ground and burst into laughter, so much so that a pig squealed. Elvis was a little dazed by her laughter, but his anger gradually dissipated with her laughter. Leah rushed back after treating Adali's wound but was stopped by Nina's partner on the way back to treat the wound on Nina's neck and Quentin. Leah could tell that Nina's injury was caused by Elvis at first glance. In the past, no matter how angry he was, he had never really hurt a female. This time, he was forced to the point that he could not hold it in anymore. Nina must have provoked Gu Meng Meng. Thinking about this, Leah secretly added some yellow root into the medicine that he applied on Nina. Seeing Nina crying out from the spiciness, Leah just smiled like a deity and thought to himself, "Serves you right for provoking my Gu Meng Meng." But after he finished, Leah was stunned again. He actually intervened in the affairs between females. And in such a childish way. Gu Mingming's influence was really not to be underestimated. Thinking about this, Leah wanted to return to Gu Mingming's side even more. Even if they had not mated yet, his instincts told him that being by her side was his home. When he rushed back, he saw Gu Meng Meng rolling on the ground while laughing so hard that she could not straighten her back. He did not even know what she was laughing about, but the corners of his lips curled up on his own accord and his gaze turned soft like a puddle of water. Leah walked to Gu Mingming's side and carried her up from the ground. He patted the dirt off her while saying, "What made you laugh like this? Tell me about it too." "Daddy Leah." Gu Mingming's cheeks were sore from laughing so much that she barely stopped her exaggerated laughter when she saw Leah. She held on to Lee's shoulders and said while shaking her shoulders to hold back her laughter, "Leader thinks that I have an affair with you, see Jean, and is going to silence me now." Leah raised his brows and savored this name that he had never heard before, "You see Jean." "Yeah." Gu Meng Meng still could not hold it in. The more she wanted to stop laughing, the more she wanted to laugh. She turned into vibrating mode in Lee's arms. Leah looked at Elvis and said gently, "Together." Pfft. Finally, Gu Meng Meng burst out in laughter once again. The entire sky above Saint Nazaire reverberated with her laughter. Ha 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 ha. When Gu Meng Meng was finally done laughing, she forcefully waved her hands and said, "What do I have to say to make you believe that this is really just a story? It has nothing to do with me." Elvis and Leah exchanged glances before nodding. "As long as you say it, we will believe you." No matter how suspicious they were, even if you see Jean appeared before their eyes, as long as Gu Meng Meng said no, they would believe it. Gu Meng Meng shook her head and sighed. It was obvious that the two of them did not believe her but were stubborn. But it couldn't be helped. You could never wake someone who was pretending to be asleep, could you? As long as you believe me, as long as you believe me. Gu Meng Meng thought that time would prove everything. Since she could not explain to them what a television series was, she could only let time dilute everything. After a while, when the legendary "You see Jean" did not appear, they would naturally forget about it. Gu Meng Meng jumped down from Lee's arms and prepared to roast another fish for Leah to eat. But the moment she pulled Lee's hand, she smelled a familiar scent. Gu Meng Meng stared at Leah with her innocent and clear doe-like eyes. She raised his wrist and asked, "Daddy Leah, hurry, tell me, what did you touch just now?" Aside from the topic, thank you to the little baby from Xiaoxiang Academy, Obedient 54264 Lei, for sending flowers during the PK period in reply to QQ reading, so we all understand our own fate. Baby, I saw your answers and they were all correct. This proves that you are a little baby who reads novels seriously. But I don't have a backhand at QQ reading, so I can't set up a reward. I'll give you a love hug as compensation in reply to QQ reading. Gue Ku, Lee's original form is a snow fox and has nothing to do with unicorns. Chapter 125. Leah brought his hand to the tip of his nose in confusion and sniffed. It was the faint smell of yellow roots, left behind when he was pranking Nina. His deep gaze was filled with uneasiness. Could it be that Gu Meng Meng found out that he had interfered in the affairs between females? Lee's expression did not change, but he started to feel uneasy inside. He said calmly, "Yellow roots. Where is it? Is there more? Give me some. Please." Gu Meng Meng held onto Lee's forearm tightly, and with every short sentence, she got closer to Leah. By the time she finished her last word, her entire body was almost stuck to the tip of Lee's nose. Leah was a little overwhelmed by Gu Meng Meng's sudden enthusiasm. That yellow roots was not a rare item, why was she so anxious about it? But since she liked it, why couldn't he dig out the back mountain of Saint Nazaire? "Yes, I have as much as you want." Leah smiled gently and rubbed Gu Meng Meng's little head. Then, he consciously transformed his white and fluffy big tail and swayed it in front of Gu Meng Meng. Then, he accidentally let Gu Meng Meng pounce on him, and that big tail was hugged by Gu Meng Meng half-willingly as she stroked it back and forth. Leah did not mind that Gu Meng Meng's hands were stained with the fishy smell. He just watched her play with indulgence and pampering while building a new fire by the stream with Elvis. Then, Elvis handled the raw fish while explaining Gu Meng Meng's method to Leah. Leah referred to Bode's diligent roasting process at the side, and combined with Elvis's description, he tried to roast a fish. He tore a small piece of fish meat and sent it into his mouth. Yeah, there was no strange taste, so it could be given to Gu Meng Meng. "Gu Meng Meng, come, open your mouth." Leah blew a small piece of meat without the fish bones until it was warm and sent it to Gu Meng Meng's mouth, who was having a great time playing with the tail. Gu Meng Meng opened her mouth obediently. Once the fish meat entered her mouth, Gu Meng Meng's eyes lit up and her innocent big eyes were filled with surprise. She looked at Leah and praised, "Daddy Leah, you're really a master chef. This fish is crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. The combination of the honey and the fish is just right. It's the best in the world." If not for the fact that she was hugging Big Tail and had no time, Gu Meng Meng really wanted to give Leah 10086 likes. Leah especially enjoyed Gu Meng Meng's exaggerated praise. No matter how many times he heard it, he would always enjoy it. So, he handed the roasted fish to Elvis and let him feed Gu Meng Meng, while he turned around to deal with the second fish. His Meng Meng was really too skinny. Since it was what she liked to eat, he would prepare more for her. She had to admit that Lee's hands were really fast. In the time it took for Gu Meng Meng to eat half a fish, he had already roasted 7 to 8 fish. Gu Meng Meng was in awe of Leah, who was looking at 7 to 8 barbecue grills at the same time. Was he a newbie who had just come into contact with fire? He must be a new graduate from New Oriental. But when Leah placed the 7 to 8 large fishes in front of her, indicating for her to eat, Gu Meng Meng was petrified. "Daddy Leah, I'm full." Leah frowned and pursed his thin lips, asking, "You ate so little?" Gu Meng Meng nodded, indicating that her appetite was only so big. She had already eaten half a fish, which was at least 1.5 catties. Firstly, she was very hungry today. Secondly, Lee's culinary skills were really not bad. Moreover, the original fish tasted fresh and delicious. If it was any other time, she would not be able to swallow so much. Aside from the topic, thank you baby, Yu Xingmeng, for the diamond. Congratulations to baby for becoming the first Tong Xing in this novel after the Wenwen 2P. It was time to wait for the recommendation process. During this period, Jean would ensure a stable daily update, until all the recommendations were completed. The editor originally said that it could be published now, but because Jean had promised her babies that she would let Elvis take up the position before it was published, so that everyone could eat more meat. So after discussing with the editor, the result was an inverted V of 300,000 words for this novel. So here comes the problem. Babies, if you have the time, please don't keep reading. Because when I publish it, the parts you are reading now will all be paid content. Parts after 100,000 words are all VIP chapters. Chapter 126. Leah did not force Gu Meng Meng and just said, "Then I'll bring these back and you can eat them later when you're hungry." Gu Meng Meng waved her hands and said, "No, no, no, the fish won't taste good when it's cold. You and Elvis have been taking care of me all this while and you guys haven't eaten yet, you too should eat it." Elvis and Leah looked at the fish and then at Gu Meng Meng, thinking that there were so many of these in the water that even if everyone in Saint Nazaire ate them together, they would not be able to finish them in 3 to 5 years. Although the yellow gravy was rare, Gu Meng Meng seemed to have a way to obtain it without bloodshed. Since Bode and Colin could help Gu Meng Meng get so much yellow gravy, it was even easier for the two of them. Since the ingredients were not rare, they did not reject it. The two of them ate the few big fish and exchanged their thoughts while eating, discussing how to improve next time. Gu Meng Meng's tummy was already round, so she clapped her hands and went to play with Sandy. It was not difficult to find Sandy among the crowd. After all, other than Nina who was thrown out by Elvis, there were only Gu Meng Meng, Nina and that unknown female left in Saint Nazaire. Disregarding the unfamiliar female, Sandy had always been on good terms with Gu Meng Meng and Bode also wanted Gu Meng Meng to teach him how to roast fish, so their fire pit was not far from Gu Meng Meng. When Gu Meng Meng came to Sandy's side, she saw a sullen Sandy and a badly battered Bode. One was pouting unhappily, while the other was circling around the fire with a face full of soot and soot. "What's wrong?" Gu Meng Meng sat beside Sandy and asked. Sandy twitched her lips and said, "I'm hungry." Gu Meng Meng turned to look at Bode who had been busy all this while and asked, "How long has he been like this?" Sandy replied, "He has been like this since just now, but not a single water shuttle can be eaten." Gu Meng Meng, "I'm so hungry. Can you roast another one for me?" "Just one." Gu Meng Meng rolled up her sleeves and was about to agree when Leah carried her up and said, "Gu Meng Meng is also a female and needs to be taken care of just like you. If you're not satisfied with Bode's skills, you might as well give other males a chance. Once Leah finished speaking, the surrounding males hurriedly offered their treasures. Sandy, why don't you try what I roasted? Leah did not say anything more and just carried Gu Meng Meng towards Elvis's cave. After walking for a certain distance, he then said, if Sandy becomes more and more reliant on you, it will not be a good thing for her. Why? Gu Meng Meng was confused. Isn't it just a fish? It's not a big deal if I roast it for her. I can't let her starve. After all, she's a precious female. The way you make food is very special. To learn it requires time and talent. Bode and the rest obviously don't have this talent. But if Sandy becomes picky because of your food, and Bode and the rest can't make food as delicious as you, do you want to keep preparing food for Sandy? Lee's voice was very gentle, with the effect of comforting her. Gu Meng Meng did not reject Lee's words, but the thought of Sandy's aggrieved look made her heart ache. Chapter 127. No. I don't think so. Gu Meng Meng had never thought that her care for Sandy would cost her life. She was in disbelief, but seeing that Leah did not look like he was joking, she could only sigh and say, all right, I know. Then find some time to teach Bode and the rest. I feel that your skills are excellent, as long as they can learn half of your skills. Oh, no, as long as they learn 30% of your skills, Sandy would not have a stomach ache. Leah smiled and nodded, agreeing to it. Returning to Elvis's cave, Leah found a brand new set of clothes from the depths of the cave. The one you're wearing is dirty, take it off and change into another. Gu Meng Meng lowered her head to take a look. She was indeed covered in fish scales. She did not need to sniff closely to smell the fishy smell. Even she could not stand it, not to mention Elvis and Leah, who had an extremely sensitive sense of smell. Gu Meng Meng laughed awkwardly, took the new clothes from Lee's hands and looked at it. Another new one. Where's my rabbit skin dress from the last time? I threw it away. Elvis answered easily. Gu Meng Meng's lips twitched. Threw it away. Why? It's dirty. Elvis answered concisely. F*******. Gu Meng Meng exclaimed, hugging the deer-skin dress on her tightly, refusing to take it off no matter what. It's shameful to waste it. Clothes that can be worn again after washing, how can you throw it away just like that? Too much. What a waste of resources. Elvis and Leah looked at each other, feeling helpless towards Gu Meng Meng's thoughts. This girl did not even frown when she shared the precious yellow sauce in the beast world with everyone, but this beast skin, which could be taken anywhere, was extremely precious to her. Leah carried Gu Meng Meng up, measuring the new clothes while saying, there are only 4 females in the tribe, but 127 males. Even if the females change into 5 sets of new clothes every day, the tribe still has to throw away a lot of the food and fur used. Food and fur. Gu Meng Meng recalled the food that the males ate today: tiger, cheetah, snow fox. Both of them were top-grade furs. Things that were hard to find in the modern world had become disposable items in this world. No wonder Elvis could throw away his beast-skin dress without feeling the slightest bit of heartache. Gu Meng Meng's heart skipped a beat. Forgive her for being a commoner, an especially greedy commoner. Gu Meng Meng felt her heart bleeding as she thought about how she had thrown away all those precious animal skins. Cupping her hands, Gu Meng Meng looked up at the sky and let out a long sigh. Beast deity, don't bother about other people's divorce. Can you find some time to manage your people's extravagant lifestyle? What's wrong? Are you feeling unwell? Elvis asked with concern. Yeah. Gu Meng Meng nodded twice, pretending to be serious. Where do you feel uncomfortable? Let me see. Leah placed the clothes at the side and walked up with concern to hold Gu Meng Meng's little hand that was covering her heart. He wanted to see if she was injured anywhere. Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, when I heard that you wanted to throw my clothes away, my entire body ached, especially my heart. As long as you promise not to throw my clothes away, I won't feel any pain. Leah could not understand at all, what kind of illness was this? He looked at Elvis, waiting for him to make a decision. Elvis was much calmer than Leah. Thinking about how she cherished the luminous pearl, he had a rough idea of what was going on. He nodded and said, "As you wish, don't throw it away, then don't throw it away. I'll dig a hole just for you to put the clothes you've worn before, how about that?" Aside from the topic, thank you to QQ Reader, Doraemon, and Xian for the reading tokens. Thank you very much. Replying to QQ Reader's comments, Blue Sky Ancient Rhyme said that she hated NPC literature. So dear, please don't join the QQ group and just read the main content posted by Jean. The main content is a 1v1, I'll leave the rest of the content in the group as an extra to satisfy the little babies who like NPC literature. Songstress, the content you want to read will be posted in the QQ group in the future. Dear, you can join the group and wait to share it. QQ group number 4927799273. I'm not a beauty, dear, I've seen your opinion, it's the same as mine. Please join the QQ group, you'll find your comrades. Chapter 128. What the heck, rich people are indeed different, offering a house the moment they open their mouths. Do you know how much the land in the Celestial Empire is now? A cloakroom. Gu Mingming's eyes lit up as she stared at Elvis. But, Gu Mingming looked at the dirty clothes on her, then looked at the new clothes that Leah had casually placed at the side. She really wanted new clothes. But, she did not want to use herself to exchange for them. There were some things that needed to be made clear. Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath, and when she looked up again, the atmosphere in the cave had turned heavy. Leah knew what Gu Mengmeng wanted to say to Elvis, so he turned around and left quietly, guarding the entrance of the cave to prevent them from being disturbed. Elvis frowned. That bad premonition struck him again, enveloping him in an unknown fear. Leader. Gu Mengmeng opened her mouth, and after thinking for a while, she continued, "You know I don't belong here, the culture here is very different from the place I came from. We don't mate immediately after we reach adulthood, females and males have equal status, it's a virtue and not an obligation for males to take care of females, the females who are taken care of will feel grateful and not take it for granted." Elvis listened quietly, his thin lips tightly pressed into a straight line, his heart stretched taut, afraid that Gu Mengmeng would say the words he did not want to hear. But in the end, Gu Mengmeng still said it. "So, I can't mate with you, I really can't hand my entire life to someone I've only known for 3 days." Gu Mengmeng lowered her head, not daring to look at Elvis's eyes. Although they had only known each other for a short period of time, she knew how good Elvis was to her. But the more she knew, the more she could not make use of this liking. Indeed, what she said now was very cruel, but it was better to cut the Gordian knot than to drag things on, waiting for Elvis to sink deeper and deeper before saying, "I've always treated you as a friend." That was something a green tea bitch would do. Seeing that Elvis did not reply, Gu Mengmeng took a deep breath and continued, "If you're angry, I can understand. I should have made it clear to you at the beginning. I'm sorry for causing you to misunderstand. If it's not convenient for you to continue taking me in, I can understand. I can ask Sandy if she can take me in for a while." Elvis did not say anything, but just pulled Gu Mengmeng into his arms and locked her tightly, not leaving any space between them. Just now, Elvis had truly experienced the pain of a blunt knife digging into his heart. Gu Mingming's words tore at his heart, making him remember the feeling of losing her with every inch of his flesh and blood. It was so painful that he couldn't breathe. It was so painful that he didn't even have the strength to shout, "I'm in pain." Elvis could not think of anything else, he only knew that if he did not hug Gu Mengmeng in his arms, the invisible wound on the left side of his chest could take his life. "Elvis, you're hurting me." Gu Mengmeng could empathize with how upset Elvis was feeling because his hug made her feel the same way. His heartbeat was clearly transmitted to her through his clothes. Every single one of her senses was telling her that she had done such a cruel thing, so much so that Gu Mengmeng felt an extremely strong sense of guilt, as if she did not reject Elvis, but rather abandoned him, the kind that abandoned him after messing around with him. Aside from the topic, Elvis, Gu Mengmeng, why did you reject me? I provided food, lodging and play with you. I'm handsome and handsome, why did you reject me? Gu Mengmeng, your thinking is very dangerous. Elvis, why? Gu Mengmeng, you're attracting green tea easily. Elvis, what's green tea? Gu Mengmeng, eating your food, drinking your lodging, playing with your feelings and ravaging your body, then telling you, I only treat you as a friend. Elvis. Then you can be green tea, I don't mind. Chapter 129. Elvis heard Gu Mengmeng's cry of pain, but he could not control his trembling arms. He did not dare to loosen even the slightest bit, afraid that Gu Mengmeng would disappear like a cloud of smoke, never to be found again. Elvis. Gu Mengmeng could already hear the sound of her bones being hugged. She could not bring herself to criticize him, so she could only call out Elvis's name again. Xiao Meng, don't leave me, Elvis said. Gu Mengmeng remained silent. How could she promise something she could not do? I won't fight for the first partner position, before you forget him. I don't ask for cubs, I don't ask for partners, I don't even want a title. I only ask for you to stay by my side and let me take care of you. Don't go, don't go. Gu Mengmeng paused for a while, before realizing that the him Elvis was referring to was probably Eugene. While feeling helpless, she also heaved a sigh of relief. Although he was a made-up character, he still solved her urgent problem. She would not be at a disadvantage if she paired up with Song Joong-ki. Since Elvis was sure that she could not forget her old love, and promised not to XXOO with her before she forgot him, then as long as Elvis's feelings for her faded, he would naturally give up on the thought of mating with her. Men, aren't they all like that? How much infatuation could they have? Thinking about this, Gu Mengmeng squeezed her eyes hard to make herself look like she was about to cry, pretending to be hurt. All right, before I let him go, you can't force me. As long as you do what you say, I won't leave. Really? Elvis used his height advantage to pull his upper body back a little, lowering his head to stare into Gu Mengmeng's clear eyes, as if this was the only way for him to believe Gu Mengmeng's promise. Not leaving. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head cautiously, then smiled in a comforting manner. I just don't want to mate. Putting this aside, I still like Saint Nazaire very much. You and Leah treat me very well, and there's also the cute Sandy. I promised her that I would make all sorts of delicacies for her. If I leave just like that, she will definitely cry and say that I did not keep my promise. I can't bear to see my baby Sandy cry. As Gu Mengmeng said that, she pulled herself out from Elvis's arms and continued, but, since I can't mate with you, I can't accept your care for nothing. There were things I could do in exchange for my food and a place to live. Freeloading is not my style. Elvis wanted to say, it is enough that you can stay. But before he could open his mouth, Leah came in from outside and answered for Elvis. All right. First teach me how you brought Barit back to life. Teaching me, the witch doctor of the tribe, would be considered a great contribution to Saint Nazaire. In return, I, the witch doctor, and Elvis, the tribe leader, will be responsible for your food and daily necessities for the entire winter. How about that? Gu Mengmeng heaved a sigh of relief when she saw Leah. With only her and Elvis, the atmosphere was too awkward. Now that there was one more person, it felt much more relaxed. Smiling, Gu Mengmeng waved her hands and said, how is it brought back to life? Barit did not die in the first place. He just fainted from dehydration after not eating or drinking for 3 days. He just needed to replenish some water and he would naturally wake up. But then again, Barit's body is really strong, he could actually walk after drinking a few mouthfuls of water. If it was us, He would have to stay in the hospital for a few days to recuperate. Aside from the topic, thank you for the tips from QQ Reading, Emo Shang, and Doryman. Chapter 130. The platform of the deity's punishment was rarely activated, and it was unprecedented for someone to come back to life after fainting on the platform of the deity's punishment. But in Gu Mingming's mouth, it was a small matter not worth mentioning. Leah held back his smile. Although time was short, he was already used to Gu Mingming's uniqueness. He just smiled and said, "All right, since you've already taught me, it counts as a contribution to Saint Nazir. Can you stay with a clear conscience now? This doesn't count." Gu Mengmeng shook her head and said, "This is just a simple basic knowledge. Using this sentence to exchange for a whole winter's food and lodging, this deal is too unfair. Such an obviously biased deal, even if you signed a contract, you won't be protected by the law, all right?" Leah did not understand what signing a contract was, and even more did not know what legal protection was. But he could roughly understand what Gu Mengmeng meant. It was a matter of course for other females to accept the care of males. Even if they were not their partners, they could still order them around easily without any return. In the eyes of females, ordering you around was already a huge favor. How could there be a need to talk about return? Ha, what a joke. And in the eyes of males, it was the same. Gu Mengmeng was, after all, different. Leah thought for a while and replied, "You saved Barit's life, so he will prepare your food for this winter as repayment. As for the other daily necessities, Elvis and I will be in charge. You're not allowed to say no, or else, we'll be sad, mmm." Leah hooked Gu Mingming's chin lightly and lifted it slightly. That charming yet seductive smile was so close to her that Gu Mengmeng swallowed her saliva. It was not Gu Mingming's style to disappoint a beauty. Moreover, Elvis and Leah would provide lodging and Barit would provide food. To a rookie in the wilderness like Gu Mengmeng, this was the basic guarantee for survival. Although it was too perfunctory to only use a sentence as a condition, but she could consciously do something to repay them, why did she have to make it so clear with words? Gu Mengmeng thought about it and nodded her head while squinting her eyes, saying, all right, I'll listen to Daddy Leah." Elvis, who was standing at the side, was expressionless. He felt very uncomfortable, not knowing if it was because Gu Mengmeng could not bear to part with UC Jean, or because there was going to be one more Barit in this family. But he could still tolerate all this, as long as Gu Mengmeng did not leave. Elvis heaved a sigh of relief and nodded at Leah, expressing his gratitude with his eyes. Leah was clearly better at communicating with Gu Mengmeng. Leah returned a smile. Without words, they could clearly read each other's thoughts from their eyes. They were all males who had yet to gain Gu Mingming's approval. That unknown UC Jean was obviously a strong opponent. At this time, they had to unite all the powers that could be united, so that they could make Gu Mengmeng stay when that male came looking for them one day. So, although losing Barit was a very unpleasant thing, it was better than letting UC Jean snatch Gu Mengmeng away. However, Gu Mengmeng did not understand the meaning of the eye contact between Elvis and Leah. She just felt a sense of relief, as though a shackle had been removed from her body after she had explained everything clearly. Without any worries, she then noticed what Leah had been holding in his hand. Wasn't that what she wanted? "Daddy Leah, is this for me?" Gu Mengmeng asked, but she had already snatched the item from Lee's hand. She held it in front of her eyes and looked at it carefully. Then, she brought it to the tip of her nose and smelled it seriously. She could not be wrong, she could not be wrong. This was exactly what she wanted. Aside from the topic, good news, I've received notification from the editor that this article will be PK on QQ Reading from the 5th of December to the 8th of December. If we win the PK, we will receive more recommendations. So, Jean Tai Steel will add more updates to repay the babies for their support. Babies who are using QQ reading to catch up on the article, please do not read the article in these 3 days and catch up with the updates every day. And those recommendation tickets, the free ones, please give them to Jeaner. Thank you. If there are babies who want to reward Jeaner, please do so within these 3 days, because it will definitely affect the PK results. As for messages, I don't need to say it, right? If you love me, tell me loudly. Chapter 131. Leo looked at Gu Mingming's face that was full of curiosity and could not help but smile. His gaze was filled with tenderness as he replied, "Yeah, the scent you smelled on my hand just now was from it. You recognize it?" Gu Mengmeng grinned till her teeth could not be seen. She nodded and said, "Yes, of course I recognize it. This is ginger." Ginger. Leah savored the word. Although the name was different, Gu Mengmeng did not look like she recognized it wrongly. From honey, bees to fish, she had already given many different names. As such, Leo was no longer surprised by the new words that came out of Gu Mingming's mouth. He just thought that maybe he should get used to Gu Mingming's way of addressing things and accommodate her habits so that her life would be more comfortable. So, Leah did not correct Gu Mingming's wording and did not tell her that in the beast world, this thing was called yellow root. Yeah, if you use this to cook fish, you can remove the fishy smell. When the time comes, you can cook a big pot of it. It's fragrant, warm and convenient. Gu Mengmeng gestured as she spoke. But as she gestured, her little face suddenly collapsed and she said, "What a pity, there isn't even a pot here. I shouldn't have gone to learn business management. Wouldn't it be better if I knew metallurgy? Then I would know how to forge iron and cast a pot now." Pot. Elvis continued Gu Mingming's sentence. He did not like her frowning look and could not stand her disappointment and regret. If she wanted it, he would never back down even if he had to fight with the beast deity. Gu Mengmeng nodded and her cheeks puffed up like buns. She said, "You all ate raw meat in the past, so you definitely don't need this thing. But I really need it, my stomach can't take eating barbecue every day. Where can I find a pot?" "I'll help you find it," Elvis said. "There shouldn't be one here." Gu Mengmeng sighed and decided to give up helplessly. But Leah circled his large tail and placed Gu Mengmeng at the base of his tail for her to sit steadily. His furry large tail formed an angle like a sofa for Gu Mengmeng to nestle comfortably. He sat sideways on the floor and played with Gu Mingming's hair while asking, "Tell us, what does a pot look like? Maybe we have it here too, just with a different name." Gu Mengmeng had never been immune to Lee's big tail. Once she hugged his tail and stroked his fur, she basically did not think before speaking. She would answer whatever Leah asked. A pot is a container for cooking. It can be roasted over a fire. It's usually made of metal, but now, even if you give me a piece of iron, I don't know how to smelt it, so it's impossible for me to make a pot. Leah and Elvis exchanged glances, clearly not knowing what metal was. Elvis was confident in Lee's communication skills, so he did not interrupt and just stood quietly at the side, waiting for him to continue asking. Leah asked, "Other than iron, are there any other wok materials?" Gu Mengmeng thought about it seriously and replied, "There's also a stainless steel pot." "Oh right, there's also a pot made of stone. The Koreans use it to mix rice. But we also need steel tools to cut the stone, so we can't make a pot without iron." Sigh, "I've been eating barbecue every day, and my throat is starting to hurt." After Gu Mengmeng finished speaking, she pouted her lips to express her dissatisfaction, but there was nothing she could do. However, Elvis and Leah exchanged a look and both of them revealed a smile of tacit understanding. Aside from the topic, replying to QQ reading reader, "Little darling, forgive me for not being able to type out the emoji you used for your name, but thank you so much darling for writing the little drama for me. Reader 1 and Reader 2's conversation is very heartwarming. Thank you for your consideration. I might not be replying to your messages these few days, because I need to hurry up and prepare for the PK in the book city. If I write one more chapter now, I can write one more chapter later. Chapter 132. When Gu Mengmeng regained her senses from the joy of playing with her tail, a stone pot that was similar to the one she had unintentionally described appeared in front of her. Gu Mengmeng blinked her innocent and clear big eyes and stared at the pot for a long time. She slapped her thigh fiercely and said, "Let's go and find Sandy to eat together." Forgive her for being mesmerized by Li's fluffy and white large tail. She had clearly discussed the big pot with them before, and from what she remembered, Elvis seemed to have made a few versions for her to see, but she seemed to be an outsider and was completely out of it. Her heart was completely focused on Li's large tail that was wagging. Gu Mengmeng only came back to her senses when Leah kept his tail. But at this moment, Elvis's big pot was already done. Gu Mengmeng looked at the big pot that could be used as a bathtub happily. She thought to herself, "This time, Leah will not stop me from preparing food for Sandy, right?" It was just putting more ingredients into her own cooking and sharing some with Sandy. With that thought, Gu Mengmeng went up to carry the stone pot out, but, ouch! Gu Mengmeng misjudged her own strength and used too much strength. The pot did not move at all. Gu Mengmeng held onto her waist and said, "My old waist, it's going to break." Leah pulled her little hand over and placed her on his knees. A pair of slender and bony hands gently pressed onto her waist area. He used a great amount of strength and said while rubbing, "You're obviously a female, but you're always trying to show off. Do you think Elvis and I are just decorations? You even want to carry things by yourself? Are we so unreliable?" "I didn't mean it that way." Gu Mengmeng smiled apologetically and said, "I don't want to trouble others for things that I can solve myself. Or else, you guys will be bothering me soon." "Silly girl. We will never be bothering you." Leah held Gu Mengmeng's little hand gently and kissed the back of her hand. He looked up into her eyes and said affectionately, "It's our honor to be able to take care of you. Give us such an opportunity, all right?" Leah nodded. Gu Mengmeng felt that her nose was about to bleed again. She pinched her nose with one hand and looked up. "Daddy Leah, you broke the rules." "Oh." Leah glanced sideways, looking at Gu Mengmeng with an expression of, "I'm eager to hear more." Gu Mengmeng said, "You can't put your devilish face too close to me. I'm afraid I won't be able to control myself and pounce on you." However, Leah suddenly smiled and opened his arms wide. He retracted his chin slightly and said with a lustful smile, "It's my pleasure, you don't have to stand on ceremony." Puff! Gu Mengmeng widened her eyes and pointed at Li's feet, shouting, "Daddy Leah, you've lost your integrity." Leo looked down and there was nothing beside his feet. He shook his head and said, "There's nothing." Gu Mengmeng laughed out loud and pointed at Leah. "You also know that you have no morals." Leah indeed did not know what moral integrity was, but from Gu Mengmeng's expression, he should have been mocked, right? If it was in the past, he would have maintained a calm smile and tortured the other party until he regretted being born in this world. But at this moment, he only felt his heart soften. It was clearly something he should be angry about, but the corners of his lips could not help but rise along with her smile. Facing Gu Mengmeng, he actually did not even have the ability to be angry. Aside from the topic, babies, there are still 2 more days before we start our explosive update on the 5th, are you guys ready? Chapter 133. In the end, Gu Mengmeng brought the stone pot to Sandy as she wished. However, she sat in the pot while Elvis and Leah carried her from each side of the pot. Gu Mengmeng mocked herself along the way. So this was the feeling of sitting in the pot. It was clearly something she was familiar with, but when she looked at it from such a position, it still felt so novel. When Gu Mengmeng reached Sandy's cave, Elvis quietly stopped a distance away from the cave and handed the pot and Gu Mengmeng over to Leah. Gu Mengmeng tilted her head and asked, "Leader, aren't you going with me?" Elvis smiled and patted Gu Mengmeng's little head, replying, although I am the leader of Saint Nazir, I still have to abide by the rules of territorial division. Gu Mengmeng then remembered that even if they were from the same tribe, they still had the concept of territorial division. So she turned back to look at Leah, saying, "Then is it not convenient for you to go in too? Why don't you two wait here for me? I will go in and call Sandy out, then we can go somewhere else to cook." Leah smiled elegantly. "I am a witch doctor, I am not restricted by territorial restrictions. Moreover, Adali's injuries look quite serious, I can go over and take a look at him." Adali. Gu Mengmeng was stunned for 3 seconds. She thought for a while before recalling that it was one of Sandy's partners. Because Sandy defended her, he got into an argument with Nina and was severely injured by Nina's partner. Yes, no matter what, he was injured because of me, I should show my condolences. As Gu Mengmeng said that, she wanted to jump out of the pot and run towards Sandy's cave. But the moment her feet touched the ground, Leah grabbed onto her arm. With just a little force, Gu Mengmeng fell backwards into Lee's arms. Looking up at Leah who was hugging her with one hand, Gu Mengmeng felt as if she could see countless pink bubbles surrounding them. So when the male and female leads suddenly hugged each other in idol dramas, that rotating slow-motion scene and accompaniment really existed. Adali was injured because of Sandy, not you. You don't have to care too much about him, because I will be jealous. Gu Mengmeng nodded her head in confusion. She felt a tinge of sweetness in her heart and the only thought in her mind was, perhaps, dating in the beast world is not bad, if the other party is Leah. Leah seemed to have seen something in Gu Mengmeng's eyes. He could not explain it clearly, but it made his mood extremely good. He liked the way Gu Mengmeng looked at him, as if she belonged to him. Leah carried the stone pot with one hand and hugged Gu Mengmeng with the other. This setup of a village woman did not diminish his demonic and fairy-like aura at all. Perhaps it was because of his occupation, the stone pot in his hands was like a magical instrument used for sacrificial rituals and not a cooking tool. Before Leah reached the entrance of Sandy's cave, Sandy had already come out to welcome him. She did not look too good and when she saw Gu Mengmeng, she forced a smile and greeted, "Gu Mengmeng, you're here." Gu Mengmeng could not bear to see Sandy suffer, so she hurriedly jumped down from Lee's arms and pounced towards Sandy. In her heart, she gave herself a big thumbs up for not choosing a lover over a friend. "What's wrong? Did you not eat your fill just now? I just brought some new tools over, let's cook something to eat together, alright?" Sandy looked at the things in Lee's hands that she had never seen before. As a foodie, this was the first time she was not interested in eating. She just pulled Gu Mengmeng's hand and said, "Can you help me request Leah to take a look at Adali again? He's very badly injured." Aside from the topic, thank you to Xiaoxiang Academy's little darling, Xiaoruin Nina, for the flowers reply to QQ Reader, Blue Sky Ancient Rhyme, for the main text of this article. Babies who cannot accept the NPC plot, do not join the reader group and just read the main text here. You can also communicate with Jean by leaving a message on QQ Reader or Xiaoxiang Academy's works. Jean will read all the messages. Babies who want to see the NPC plot, please join the QQ group to read the content sent in the form of an extra. Chapter 134. Daddy Leah, let's go in and take a look. Gu Mengmeng held on to Sandy's little hand and turned to plead with Leah. Leah rubbed Gu Mengmeng's little head and said, "As you wish." "That's great, thank you, Gu Mengmeng." Sandy heaved a sigh of relief and a smile appeared on her face. Gu Mengmeng and Sandy walked into the cave side by side, with Leah following behind them. The moment she entered the cave, Gu Mengmeng smelled a strong stench of blood. She frowned and felt as if something was rolling in her stomach. The bloody scene from the coming-of-age ceremony replayed in her mind. Gu Mengmeng shuddered and a chill ran down her spine, causing her hair to stand on end. "Gu Mengmeng, what's wrong?" Sandy held on to Gu Mengmeng's hand and was the first to notice her abnormality. Leah carried Gu Mengmeng with one arm and used his large tail to wrap around her tiny body. He comforted her gently, "Don't worry Gu Mengmeng, I'm here." Li's furry tail and the warmth in his arms successfully soothed Gu Mengmeng's uneasiness. She wrapped her little arms around Li's neck and nodded at his long and affectionate eyes. Then, she buried her little head into Li's neck and used his unique scent to disperse the blood stench in her nose. Feeling Li's body temperature, Gu Mengmeng's emotions slowly relaxed. Seeing that Gu Mengmeng had regained her composure, Leah said to Sandy, "Ask your partners to carry a dolly out, the smell here is too horrible, I can't stand it." With that, Leah carried Gu Mengmeng out of the cave. Seeing the sunlight, Gu Mengmeng's mood finally calmed down. She looked at Sandy in embarrassment, feeling as if she was visiting a patient in the hospital and telling the patient, "I'm here to visit you, but the smell of the hospital is too strong, I don't like it, so come to the coffee shop outside the hospital and let me visit you." More importantly, the person being visited was obviously seriously injured and couldn't move on his own. However, this was the beast world and the witch doctor in the tribe had extremely high prestige. Only females would be able to receive the full attention of the witch doctor, males would usually not need the witch doctor's attention. Minor injuries don't need to be taken care of. They'll heal in 2 or 3 days. Serious injury. Is there a need to waste medicinal herbs to treat it? Especially someone like Adri who had lost in a fight. How could he have the face to ask the witch doctor for treatment? But now, on account of Gu Mengmeng, not only did Leah treat him, he even came to treat him. Now, he was just asking him to come out of the cave. How was that making things difficult for him? When Bode and Sandy's other partner carried a dolly out, Gu Mengmeng then realized that a dolly was seriously injured. The wound on his abdomen was flipped outwards and the blood around the wound had coagulated into a sticky state. His internal organs could be vaguely seen through the wound. His face was as pale as a sheet, and fine beads of sweat covered his entire body. If he was in the modern world, he would definitely be sent to the emergency room. But now, he was being carried out by Bode and Sandy's other partner, one by his arms and the other by his legs, like a suckling pig. Gu Mengmeng shuddered and said, "Oh my God, the way you two are carrying him is tearing the wound open again. Quick, find a flat and clean place to put him down." Bode's face darkened. This Gu Mengmeng really did not regard him as an outsider, ordering him around so easily. And as her first partner, he was not as important as Gu Mengmeng, whom he had only known for 2 to 3 days. Sigh, this was all fate. Aside from the topic, my babies, let me say something more. Tomorrow, QQ reading will be going up for PK. All my babies with a QQ reading ID, please give your recommendation tickets to our Gu Mengmeng tomorrow. It's the free recommendation ticket. Wenwen has not been published yet, so the monthly ticket cannot be used. Gina is now working hard to save up her chapters, hoping that she can update more chapters for everyone. But I might not be able to reply to everyone's messages in time, because I am making the best use of my time to write as many chapters as possible for everyone to see. If this PK is over, I heard that there will be a second round of PK. Then it will be another round of explosive updates. Chapter 135. Sandy asked one of his mates to take out a clean hide from the cave and lay it on the ground. Bode and another male placed Adri on the hide. Leah placed the stone pot at the side and used his large tail to wrap Gu Mengmeng behind him to protect her. He then squatted down to check on Adri's injuries. Gu Mengmeng knew that Leah was protecting her because he knew she was afraid of the smell of blood. She felt warmth in her heart, but she was still worried about a dolly. After all, he was a beast and Sandy's partner. Although Leah said that Adri's injury had nothing to do with her, Gu Mengmeng still felt guilty. So for the first time, she resisted the temptation of her big tail and climbed onto Li's back. She lay on Li's shoulder and peeked out her little head to examine a dolly's wound with Leah. If we just leave it like this, it will definitely be infected. Gu Meng Meng muttered softly. Leah tilted his head and asked Gu Meng Meng, then what do you think we should do? Although Gu Meng Meng kept saying that what happened to Barit was just common sense and could not be considered as reviving the dead, but to Leah and everyone else, it was already a miraculous feat. Gu Meng Meng's extreme, general knowledge was enough to crush many witch doctors in the beast world. So Leah still valued Gu Meng Meng's opinion. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if Gu Meng Meng was just joking, so what? As long as Gu Meng Meng was happy, he would still listen to Gu Meng Meng's opinion and do as she said, much less a dolly. As long as she was happy. Gu Meng Meng was very happy that Leah would listen to her seriously. This made her feel that she was very important. But if she really opened her mouth, she was afraid that she would be displaying her slight skill in front of Leah, the witch doctor. It would not be good if she gave the wrong information and caused a dolly's life to be in danger. Leah could tell that Gu Meng Meng was doubtful, so he used his large tail to gently sweep her back and comforted her. It's all right, just say what you think. I'll decide whether it's feasible or not. Gu Meng Meng then relaxed and nodded. For this kind of injury, we will first disinfect the wound and reduce the inflammation before stitching it up to prevent infection. But there's no alcohol or needles, tell me what it is. I'll make it for you. Leah thought that the pot could be replaced by something else, just like the pot. Gu Meng Meng shook her head and said, wine can be brewed using fermented grains, but it is definitely not something that can be done in 1 or 2 days. Sewing needles. As Gu Meng Meng spoke, she suddenly saw the huge pile of fish at the entrance of Sandy's cave. Those should be the ingredients that Bode originally wanted to practice roasting fish with. Gu Meng Meng's eyes lit up. She pointed at the largest one and said, the suture needle can be replaced by fish bones. Without waiting for Gu Meng Meng to say anything, Bode had already carried the biggest fish over. Yep, if I don't want to be ordered around by a female other than Sandy, the best way is to get things done before she opens her mouth. In this way, he would be doing it on his own initiative and not being ordered around by other females. If Gu Meng Meng knew what Bode was thinking, she would definitely say, congratulations, you've learned how to answer first. It was a pity that Gu Meng Meng only cared about choosing a suitable bone from the fish bones and did not have the time to tease Bode. This is good. After searching for a long time, Gu Meng Meng finally found a fish bone with a suitable thickness and curved angle. She handed it to Leah and said, Daddy Leah, make a small hole at this position, but don't damage the other parts, is that all right? Aside from the topic, on the first day of PK, please leave more comments, it's best if it's related to the plot. Those who have tickets, please hand over your tickets. Those who don't have tickets, please hand over your tickets tomorrow. Those who haven't bookmarked it, please click to bookmark it. Those who have bookmarked it, please keep it. Those who want to reward Jean Eyre and Gu Meng Meng, you can start your performance now. Chapter 136. Leo looked at the fish bone in Gu Meng Meng's hand and used the most precise control of his fingernails to carve a tiny hole in the shape of a rice grain at the spot Gu Meng Meng pointed at. Gu Meng Meng looked at it again and again before nodding her head in satisfaction. Yes, just like this. With the needle, Gu Meng Meng lowered her head and looked around. She saw the stone pot that Leah had placed at the side and said to Sandy, Sandy, ask your partner to start a fire and find 3 tree trunks as thick as this one and some sturdier tree vines. Oh, right, I need Elvis's help. Can he come over too? Sandy replied, of course. After getting Sandy's permission, Gu Meng Meng turned to Elvis and shouted, Leader, you can come over now. Sandy has agreed. Actually, with Elvis's hearing, Gu Meng Meng really did not need to shout like that because he had already heard their conversation just now. However, it felt different to be called over by Gu Meng Meng. Elvis walked in front of Gu Meng Meng and asked, What can I do for you? Gu Meng Meng replied, I remember there were many animal organs thrown at the stream just now. Leader, can you help me ask if anyone still wants those organs? If they don't want them, then help me take one of the intestines back. If they still want it, I'll go get it for you. Elvis interrupted Gu Meng Meng. What a joke. Would anyone dare to not give what his Xiao Meng wanted? Gu Meng Meng nodded. She suddenly thought of something and pulled Elvis, who was about to leave. She turned to Sandy and asked, "What is your Adali's original form?" Sandy replied, "He's the same as me. He's from the bear tribe." Gu Meng Meng nodded and said, "Leader, I remember a few people ate bear's intestines just now. Can you see if there are any bear intestines left? If you have a choice, take a bear's intestine." Elvis did not ask why and just nodded his head in agreement. He then kissed Gu Mingming's forehead and turned to walk towards the stream. Leah was a little jealous and said, "Everyone has something to do, but I'm the only one with nothing to do." Gu Meng Meng laughed and said, "You're the chief surgeon today. Your hands are going to be operated on later. How can you do other chores? If he injures his hand, who's going to suture a dolly later?" "Me." Leo was a little surprised. "Of course it's you. If it wasn't you, would it be me?" Gu Meng Meng looked at Li's barely visible nod and smiled bitterly. "I only have theoretical knowledge and lack practical experience. Besides, I'm a coward, I don't dare to make a move." Leah used his large tail to encircle Gu Meng Meng back into his arms. He swayed his tail from time to time and said, "All right, I will listen to Gu Meng Meng. I'll do whatever Meng Meng asks me to do." What a glib tongue. Gu Meng Meng chided with a smile, but she was not angry. Instead, she felt ripples in her heart. Bode and the other two males brought the tree branches that Gu Meng Meng wanted in a short while and started a fire. Gu Meng Meng instructed Bode to tie the 3 thick tree branches together with tree vines at an angle of about 120 degrees. The 3 tree branches were evenly distributed and became a simple frame. Gu Meng Meng used the tree vines to hang the stone pot up. She originally wanted to hang it above the fire to boil a pot of water to disinfect a dolly. Unfortunately, she miscalculated the weight of the stone pot. The moment she hung it up, the tree vines snapped with a clang. The stone pot really fell down and smashed into the fire, causing sparks to fly everywhere. Aside from the topic, a few days ago, a reader suggested to me to let Sandy give birth to a son named Winnie. I thought about it for a while. Yeah, that's good. It obviously solved the problem of my name being useless. So among Sandy's 6 partners, I arranged a bear tribe. Chapter 137. Li's reaction was extremely fast. He scooped Gu Meng Meng back and locked her in his arms. He turned around and used his back to block all the sparks. Gu Meng Meng was indeed shocked. She shrunk into Li's arms and did not dare to move. After a long while, she stretched her neck out to take a look. But the moment she moved, she heard Leah say, "Meng Meng." "Ha!" Gu Meng Meng felt a little guilty. She lowered her head like a child who had done something wrong. But she lifted her eyes to peek at Li's expression. As expected, Leah could not even maintain his smile. He held on to Gu Mingming's shoulders and adjusted to her height. He stared straight into her eyes and said, "Do you know how scared I was just now? If you were hurt even a little, it would be more painful than having my heart gouged out." Gu Meng Meng pursed her lips and said, "I didn't know that pot was so heavy, huh?" Leah did not buy it. He was unusually stern and did not leave any room for negotiation. "I know my mistake." Gu Meng Meng lowered her head and maintained a good attitude. "What did you do wrong?" Leah did not intend to let her off just like that. This little female, if he did not teach her a lesson, she would really dare to do anything. "That branch is too thin. I should have asked Bode and the rest to find a thick one from the start. Oh, that's right, we should not have set up a pot. We should have built a stove so that it would not fall." The more Gu Meng Meng said, the more she felt that it made sense. She nodded and said, yeah, yes, we should have built a stove. Gu Meng Meng. Leah was really furious. What was this little female thinking in her head? Couldn't she just leave this matter to the males to think of a solution? That pot was so heavy. If it had landed on her, the consequences would be unimaginable. But she was still thinking about building a stove. Did she not know that she almost lost her life just now? Ah. Oh, fire. Daddy Leah, don't be angry. I really know my mistake. I will never carry a stone pot again. Gu Meng Meng tried to please him. What else? Leah finally calmed down after getting her assurance. Gu Meng Meng blinked her big eyes and tilted her head to look at Leah in confusion. Leah was so angry that he clenched his teeth. He really wanted to pry open her little head and see what kind of weird things were inside. Unfortunately, the hand that was raised high did not bear to hurt her at all. It only touched her eyebrows and said, "You have to get used to relying on me. In the future, let me do whatever you need me to do. Don't put yourself in danger and make me worry. Do you hear me?" Oh, Daddy Leah is right. I will listen to Daddy Leah. Gu Meng Meng hugged Lee's arm and shook it with all her might, acting like a spoiled child. Daddy Leah, don't be angry, I will treat myself as a severely handicapped person in the future, the kind that can't take care of myself and ask you to do everything. That's a good boy. Leo loved it when Gu Meng Meng acted coquettishly and shamelessly in front of him. He did not know why, but he felt that the left side of his chest was filled to the brim. That sense of fullness made him feel as if he was sitting on the clouds, floating so fast that it didn't seem real. But will you annoy me? What if Daddy Leah hates me? Gu Meng Meng pouted and asked. If you are worried that I will have a change of heart, why don't you settle on me as soon as possible? When your estrus is over, we will mate. This way, I will be yours for life. If I have a change of heart, the beast deity will take my life for you. How about that? Aside from the topic, PK is so nerve-wracking. Babies, have you voted yet? Chapter 138. When Elvis came back with 2 pieces of bear intestines, Sandy had already asked Bode and the rest to build a stove and boil water. Elvis was a little surprised at the matter of boiling water, but the smell of the thing in his hands was too strong, so he did not dare to get close to Gu Meng Meng. He just stood at a distance and asked, "Xiao Meng, do you still want this?" Gu Meng Meng turned around and saw Elvis carrying a piece of intestine that was as thick as her arm. It was bloody and dripping with yellow liquid, and the stench almost made Gu Meng Meng vomit. Gu Meng Meng looked at Elvis. But thinking of the heavily injured Adali, she clenched her teeth and said, "Yes, this is very important." Elvis's sense of smell was much more sensitive than Gu Meng Meng's. The smell of the intestines almost suffocated him. But because it was what Gu Meng Meng wanted, he carried it along the way and did not throw it away. But Elvis was not willing to pass this smelly thing to Gu Meng Meng. Gu Meng Meng also did not have the intention to wash it herself. She was kind, but not to the extent of being a saint. Hence, he turned around and said to Bode, "Bode, go and wash that bear's intestines for me. Clean them inside and out." Bode slammed the table and said, "Why me again?" Gu Meng Meng spread her hands and said, "Because I can only remember your name." Bode thought to himself, what the F***K, but he was helpless. Gu Meng Meng had a strong backing and he could not afford to offend her. Not to mention Elvis and Leah, who were already emitting a strong aura, just Sandy's unhappy gaze was enough to send a chill down Bode's spine. Resigned to his fate, he pinched his nose and walked to Elvis. He took over the bear intestines from his hands bitterly and transformed into a leopard to fly downstream to wash this stupid thing. Elvis looked at his own hands and said, "I'm going out for a while, I'll be back in a while." "All right." Gu Meng Meng knew that Elvis had a sharp nose. The smell that was still lingering on his hands must have made him break down. He must be going to wash his hands. Sandy moved closer to Gu Meng Meng and smiled meaningfully. Gu Meng Meng is really the #1 beauty of Saint Nazaire. Even Elvis is used to reporting to you, he even needs your approval to wash his hands. Gu Meng Meng did not know whether to laugh or cry. You're thinking the wrong way. Leader is just more of a gentleman. Sandy nodded perfunctorily and asked, then what do we do next? Gu Meng Meng used mud to extinguish the fire and waited for the water to cool to a suitable temperature before asking Sandy's partner to help carry him to Adali's side. She used a small leaf to scoop some water to clean Adali's wounds, then scooped some water to carefully help Leah wash his hands. When the green-faced Bode returned, he washed the bare intestines again with warm water and made Leah use his fingernails to tear the bare intestines into thin strips that could barely pass through the fishbone needles. When everything was ready, Gu Meng Meng handed the fishbone needle to Leah. Daddy Leah, I'll leave the rest to you. Leah took over the fishbone needle but only stared straight at Gu Meng Meng. He had no intention to proceed to the next step. Gu Meng Meng thought that Leah did not know what to do, so she guided him again. Daddy Leah, don't be nervous. Just sew up the 2 sides of the wound and don't let the wound open like this. I believe in you, you can definitely do it. Do your best, but Leah twitched his mouth. My hands will be dirty if I do that. Gu Meng Meng nodded. It will definitely be stained with blood. You just have to wash it. Leah said, but you're the one who washed my hands. How can I dirty them for other males? Gu Meng Meng, aside from the topic. Chapter 139. Under Gu Meng Meng's repeated coaxing and guarantee that after Leah was done with Adali's wound, Gu Meng Meng would kiss him and wash his hands clean. Only then did Leah reluctantly start stitching Adali's wound. She had to admit that Leah was really awesome in some professional fields. The tenacity of the raw gut suture was not good, but he was able to stitch up Adali's wound with ingenious angles and strength without any experience. Adri was a real man. Without anesthesia, he didn't even let out a groan. He clenched his teeth and stared at Sandy, as if there was nothing he couldn't endure as long as he could see Sandy. The entire process only took about 3 minutes. When Leah placed the last stitch perfectly, Gu Meng Meng's heart finally relaxed. To be honest, Gu Meng Meng felt her heartache just by looking at him. But he was her best friend's man after all, she still had to avoid arousing suspicion. So Gu Meng Meng told Sandy, hurry and go take a look at Adali, I will go with Leah to the stream to wash my hands and come back later. All right. Sandy did not know how to take care of an injured person, so she just followed Gu Meng Meng's instructions and sat beside Adali. She stared at Adali, who was forcing himself to smile, and gently wiped the sweat off his face. Leah transformed into a snow fox and carried Gu Meng Meng on his back. They came to the upstream of the stream and without a word, they directly rushed into the water. Plop plop plop, Gu Meng Meng and Leah fell into the water separately. Gu Meng Meng stood up with a chuckle and wiped the water off her face. She saw Leah standing in the water completely naked. The stream's water barely reached his waistline and the 2 mermaid lines were faintly discernible, causing one's imagination to run wild. His broad shoulders and narrow waist were graceful. He was not as muscular as Elvis and did not look as strong and powerful as Elvis, making others not dare to underestimate him. However, he had a sense of strong and healthy beauty. His skin was translucent and fair like jade, but did not have a hint of femininity. Gu Meng Meng could always sense a demonic or immortal aura from him, but she had never confused his gender. His silver-white long hair was casually draped behind him, glistening with a watery light due to the stream. Under the refraction of the sunlight, there seemed to be a rainbow halo. F*******. Daddy Leah was too much of a foul. I really want to pounce. What should I do? Leah stood at his original spot, his eyes filled with unparalleled charm. He raised his slender and bony hands from the water, creating countless ripples. With his palm facing upwards, his fingers naturally curved inwards while his index finger extended forward. Then, he hooked it lightly and called out in a hoarse voice, "Meng Meng, come over and help me wash." Puff, Gu Meng Meng could only feel something flowing out from her nose. It was sweet and hot. Gu Meng Meng touched it with the back of her hand. Damn, it was bleeding again. Li's reaction was even faster than Gu Mingming's. The water did not seem to pose any resistance to him as he glided to Gu Mingming's front. He wrapped one arm around Gu Mingming's waist and the other gently lifted her little chin to tilt her head up. He frowned and his gaze was filled with heartache. His crimson thin lips slowly moved downwards, pressing against Gu Mingming's lips. Thump, thump. Gu Mingming felt that her heart was about to jump out and her nose was bleeding more and more profusely. First kiss. Was it going to be sacrificed here? Under such a situation where her nose was bleeding all over. Other people's first kiss was very romantic. Why was her first kiss so pathetic? But why was there a vague sense of anticipation in her heart? Aside from the topic, in reply to QQ Reader, love is like a song, the string breaks and the person scatters. Thank you baby for your suggestion, I will try my best to speed up the pace. As for feelings, you said that it was too cruel to treat the orcs with the modern concept of love, this point cannot be denied. But baby, please think about our Gu Meng Meng. After all, she had just transmigrated a few days ago. It would be too difficult for her to accept the settings of the venerable female of the beast world, polygamy, and having to get married immediately after her period. She had to go through an adaptation process. Using an old saying, the most generous love is to give you time. If a man is not even willing to spend some time on you, what right does he have to say that he loves you? Chapter 140. Just as Gu Mengmeng was about to close her eyes, Leah stuck out his pink tongue and licked Gu Mingming's nose lightly. That crimson blood was like cinnabar on his lips, making him look extremely seductive. Leah used his index finger to wipe the blood from Gu Mingming's nose into his mouth, then looked at Gu Mengmeng with misty eyes and said, "Just as I thought, you are very delicious." Gu Mengmeng quivered and woke up from the crimson romantic bubbles. She pouted and asked, "Daddy Leah, don't tell me you want to eat me up." Leah said thoughtfully, "That's a good suggestion." Gu Mengmeng looked up and whimpered, "Daddy Leah, please don't eat me." However, Leah smiled and licked her little nose again. This time, his movements were delicate and slow. Gu Mingming's entire attention was focused on the tip of her nose. She could clearly feel every minute movement of Li's, and even clearly saw him sucking on her little nose at the end. Licking his lips with his red tongue, Li's bewitching face stopped inches away from Gu Mengmeng. Li's thumb caressed Gu Mingming's lips, his long and narrow eyes were filled with unconcealed desire. "Be my partner or food, which would you choose?" Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with desire. I don't choose either," Gu Mengmeng said as she started to struggle. But her little strength was not worth mentioning in front of Leah. Leah held on to Gu Mingming's waist with one hand and supported the back of her head with the other, fixing her firmly in his arms. That seductive face slowly moved to Gu Mingming's ear and he whispered in her ear in an intimate tone, "Why don't I choose for you?" Li's warm breath sprayed onto Gu Mingming's ear and she felt her heart palpitate. Damn, she was concerned about her life and death and she was actually feeling amorous. No. Gu Mengmeng stuttered as she rejected. But Leah did not have any intention of letting go of her. Instead, he lowered his body slightly and both of their bodies sank into the stream. Unknowingly, Leah had already carried Gu Mengmeng to a very deep position. The water did not even reach Li's chest and Gu Mingming's feet could not reach the ground at all. In order not to choke, Gu Mengmeng could only wrap her arms tightly around Li's neck and whimper. Leo looked at Gu Meng Meng, who was in his arms, and said seductively, "It's all right, it won't hurt. I will eat you up so that we can fuse together and never be separated again." Gu Mingming's eyes were filled with tears. "Wah! Daddy Leah, don't do this, don't. Gu Meng Meng struggled with all her might, but it was useless. Seeing Leah revealing his sharp teeth and slowly approaching Gu Mingming's slender, snow-white neck, Gu Meng Meng was so scared that her face turned pale and she even forgot how to cry. Was he going to die in Daddy Lee's mouth? The play ends here. Did that beast deity bring me here from the swimming pool just to add food for Daddy Leah? Sob, 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 I must have a fake father. Gu Mingming's imagination was running wild when she felt a warm sensation on her neck. It was wet and slightly painful, but it did not feel like the pain of being pierced by teeth. This feeling was a little weird. Gu Meng Meng tried her best to use the corner of her eyes to look at Leah, who was lying on her neck, and called out, "Daddy." Leah. Aside from the topic, babes, remember to vote for me every day. Chapter 141. A numb feeling came from her neck. It was a very unfamiliar feeling, but Gu Meng Meng knew that it was not the feeling of her throat being bitten off. She could feel her heart beating inexplicably. She was flustered, but she did not resist, and even felt a little enjoyment. After a long while, Leah finally let go of her neck. Then, he looked at the red mark on Gu Mingming's neck as if he was admiring a piece of art. So pretty. Leah caressed the mark he left on Gu Mingming's neck. Gu Meng Meng touched her own neck. There was no wound. She lowered her head and looked at her neck from the reflection in the water. Then, her face heated up and instantly turned red. Daddy Leah. Gu Meng Meng covered her neck shyly and said angrily, "Why did you randomly plant strawberries on other people's bodies?" Leah did not take it to heart. He pinched Gu Mingming's little face and said, "You look especially good when you are about to cry from being bullied." Pfft! Gu Mingming's nose was bleeding. She covered her neck with her little hand and raised her red face. She snorted but could not say anything to refute him. She was being flirted. Gu Meng Meng was very clear that she was definitely being flirted with by Leah. "I'm the only one who can see this delicious look of yours, okay?" Leah held on to Gu Mingming's wrist gently and slowly pulled her little hand down to place it on his chest. His gaze was full of sorrow. Every word that came out of his thin red lips made Gu Mingming's heart feel like it was an open shell being touched by a gentle hand. That tender and sensitive nerve sent a strange stimulation, making Gu Mingming's blood boil and her face burn up. Gu Meng Meng could not care less about the hickey on her neck. She only used her still mobile hand to pat her face with water to cool down her burning face. Lee's smile looked so unreal under the refraction of sunlight and water. It was as beautiful as poppies on the other side of the ocean, exuding a fatal temptation. Lee's lips slowly approached Gu Meng Meng again. This time, it landed firmly on her lips. He did not intrude, nor did he move away. He just kissed Gu Meng Meng with his lips sticking to hers, using this method to convey his appreciation and adoration. After a long while, Leah slowly moved his lips away and asked with a suggestive tone, "Regarding kissing you without permission, should I apologize or confess?" Gu Mingming's mind froze. Why did these words sound so familiar? After being stunned for a moment, Gu Meng Meng finally recalled that this was the line she had told Sandy in Descendants of the Sun. However, Elvis had forcefully imagined a Cheong Miao drama and paired her and Yu Si Jean together, so the story only ended at this point. Gu Meng Meng pouted. She was a little unhappy that Leah had to copy someone else's confession and was not even willing to think of a confession himself. She mumbled, "Why are you copying him?" Leah held the back of Gu Mingming's head gently and kissed her forehead. Then, he replied, "As long as it's something you like, I'm willing to learn. Even if I have to destroy myself and become someone else's shadow in your eyes. I'm willing." Her heart was stabbed harshly. Gu Mengmeng was filled with guilt for her complaints just now. One of her hands was pressed against his chest by Leah and had not released it. Gu Mengmeng just went with the flow and laid on Li's chest. She pressed the side of her face against his bare chest and listened to his strong heartbeat. Once, twice, mating was too heavy a burden. Gu Mengmeng knew that she could not make such a promise. But, maybe dating would not be bad. Aside from the topic, thank you to Xian Bao and Chen Xiaoyu for your tips. I have truly received all of your encouragement. Also, I don't want to waste time explaining which is better between NPCs and 1v1. Everyone has different views on love and values. We don't have to force everyone to agree with us, right? In order to not cause more misunderstandings, I won't reply to NPCs and 1v1 messages anymore. Chapter 142. Confess. Gu Mengmeng said softly with a blushing face. The corners of Li's lips curled upward slightly. Something in his heart seemed to have calmed down and spread throughout his entire body. Leah changed his posture and used his forearm to support Gu Mengmeng's butt, hugging her like he was carrying a child. Using his other hand to lift her chin, he looked at Gu Mengmeng with eyes that could drown a person to death and said, "In my name, I swear to the beast deity that I will pledge my loyalty to you for the rest of my life. From today onwards, you are my God, my life, my everything." Gu Mengmeng's face was burning hot and she felt all the blood in her body rushing to her head. Pursing her lips that were dry from the heat, Gu Mengmeng said hesitantly, "What I mean is, I can date you. I'm not ready to mate." Gu Mengmeng had already explained her views on love to Leah long ago, and Leah remembered the dating process that Gu Mengmeng said to him. Leah was already very satisfied to be able to transition from friend to lover in such a short time. He did not want to force Gu Mengmeng. No matter how badly he wanted to mate with Gu Mengmeng and become the rightful person by her side, he had to respect Gu Mengmeng's feelings first. How could his woman be wronged? "Tell me, what kind of relationship is it?" Leah approached Gu Mengmeng's lips slowly and stopped at a fingertip's distance. He asked in a slightly hoarse voice, "Is it a relationship where I can kiss you whenever I want to?" Gu Mengmeng knew very well what would happen if she nodded her head slightly. Her heart was beating wildly and she replied with a single sound in anticipation and shyness, "Yeah." Leah lifted her little chin and gently brought her lips into his mouth. This time, Li's tongue entered Gu Mengmeng's mouth nimbly, tasting the sweetness in her mouth wantonly and greedily. Until Gu Mengmeng was almost suffocating, Leah then released her reluctantly. Both of their gazes were in a daze and Leah could clearly feel the solid throbbing in his left chest. He knew very well what this familiar yet strange feeling meant. Leah could not explain it clearly, but he was once again certain that he could not let go of this female Gu Mengmeng in this lifetime. After all, it was almost winter, and the stream water was still somewhat cold. Leah was afraid that Gu Mengmeng would catch a cold, so he did not stay in the water for too long. He did not know where he had lost the beast skin dress when he transformed, and he was not in the mood to look for it, so he just carried Gu Mengmeng up to the shore. He knew clearly that Elvis had already caught up to them and he had clean clothes for Gu Mengmeng to change into. In other words, Elvis must have seen everything just now. Leah and Elvis hoped that they could successfully separate Gu Mengmeng's feelings for him before Eugene arrived, or even directly replace him. They had the same idea and did not need to discuss it verbally. They had such a tacit understanding. This was also the reason why Elvis did not show himself even though he was already nearby. But this did not mean that Elvis could tolerate Leah threatening his status as the first partner, and Leah indeed did not have that intention. So Leah planned to carry Gu Mengmeng to Elvis's side. Firstly, he wanted to get some clean clothes for Gu Mengmeng to change into so that she would not catch a cold. Secondly, he wanted to take the opportunity to explain to Elvis. Out of topic, in the middle of PK, little babies, remember to vote for me in QQ bookstore. Chapter 143. But Lee's thought made Gu Mengmeng very conflicted. Damn it, Leah was naked. She did not feel anything when he was in the water just now, but now that she was out, the scene was too erotic and Gu Mingming's nosebleed was about to go out of control again. Daddy Leah. Gu Mengmeng hugged Lee's neck and stopped Lee's actions of going ashore. Leah stopped in his tracks and smiled dotingly. You're still calling me Daddy Leah. Gu Mengmeng was speechless. Damn it, calling her own boyfriend daddy, why did she feel even more embarrassed than before? Between lovers, what kind of address should there be? Leah was clearly asking sincerely, but to Gu Mengmeng, it sounded like he was asking a question that he already knew the answer to. The blush on Gu Mingming's face did not subside at all. Holding back the surging emotions in her heart, Gu Mengmeng said shyly, Then what should I call you? Lele. Or Yaya? Leah heard it and obviously did not like it, so he shook his head and said, Just call me Daddy, it sounds much better. Pfft, Gu Mengmeng deeply felt that Leah was purposely teasing her. But facing Lee's face, Gu Mengmeng could not bring herself to be angry. She just bashfully punched Lee's chest lightly. To show that she was angry, Gu Mengmeng directly called Lee's name, without any form of address. Leah, are you planning to go back like this? Gu Mingming's little eyes peeked downward secretly. Since Leah was her boyfriend now, it should not be too much for her to take a look. Leah followed Gu Mingming's line of sight and looked down at his half-hidden body in the water. He asked with a sincere face, What's wrong? You will be seen by others like this. Gu Mengmeng felt that she had overestimated her psychological endurance. She dared to say anything when she was joking normally, but it was her first time seeing a real gun right in front of her. She only took a quick glance and quickly looked away. But even so, Gu Mengmeng still felt her heart jumping to her throat before she could see anything clearly. Leah thought for a while and tried to understand Gu Mingming's words. But he really could not figure out what the problem was. Wasn't everyone like this? Gu Mengmeng looked at the 3 words I don't understand, clearly written on Lee's face and instantly felt embarrassed. She thought to herself, does this beast deity not care about anything else besides whether a couple gets a divorce or not? You don't even bother with the least bit of wuthering. But thinking was just thinking, Gu Mengmeng could not be bothered to complain about the beast deity's auntie image from the neighborhood committee. She was only thinking about her blue friend and could not let others see his nude picture. She thought for a moment and pretended to take off her clothes. As she slowly untied her belt, she said, My clothes are also covered in fish scales, and it smells like hell. Now that it's wet, it's not comfortable to wear. I might as well take it off too. Then we can run back to Sandy's place naked and let the tribesmen see us naked. Leah, on the other hand, tapped Gu Mingming's little nose with a faint smile and said, Elvis is already waiting over there with clean clothes. With me and him releasing our aura together, even mosquitoes would not dare to come close. After you've changed your clothes, we'll go to Sandy's. That way, we won't be seen naked. Chapter 144. As Leah said that, Elvis had already walked out from the shade of the tree. Gu Mengmeng was like a child who had done something wrong. She lowered her head and did not dare to look into Elvis's eyes. As for Elvis wanting to be her godmother, she already knew that it was a misunderstanding. But why did she not dare to face Elvis? Gu Mengmeng did not want to think too much and did not dare to think too much. She just lowered her head and twisted her fingers. You will get sick easily wearing wet clothes, change. Elvis reached out and took Gu Mengmeng from Lee's hands. He then said to Leah, transform into your original form before coming out. She doesn't want others to see you like this. Leah nodded and did not ask why. He transformed into a fox and lightly shook off the water on his body. His fur became fluffy and he did not look like a drowned rat at all. It was as if he had used a hair dryer to dry his hair in the blink of an eye. TSK, even the heavens would look at one's appearance. Gu Mengmeng thought about how long she usually had to dry her hair and deeply understood the favoritism of the heavens. However, her blue friend was really good-looking. No matter if he was in human or beast form, he was so good-looking that one could not take their eyes off him. Elvis carried Gu Mengmeng to a place that was sheltered from the wind and then started to remove her clothes. Gu Mengmeng crossed her arms in front of her chest and said, "No need, no need. I can change myself." Elvis's hand paused in mid-air and he stared at Gu Mengmeng with his deep gaze for a long time. Finally, he slowly lowered his hand and turned around indifferently, saying, "I will guard you from the side. Call me if you need help." "Oh, all right." Gu Mengmeng felt a tinge of guilt. She was the one who provoked Elvis without knowing the situation. Ever since they met by the lake, everything she did was enough to cause him to misunderstand. Although it was unintentional, now that she knew that the beast world's view on love was very different from hers, there was no reason for her to let Elvis continue to misunderstand. Moreover, since she had already decided to date Leah, she could not give Elvis that kind of illusory hope. So, Gu Mengmeng called out while changing her dress, "Elvis, are you still there?" "I have always been here," Elvis replied. Gu Mengmeng said, "Leah confessed to me and I agreed." Elvis remained silent for a long while before slowly replying, Gu Mengmeng said, "Where I come from, a female can only be with a male. Since I've agreed to date Leah, I won't have any other romantic partners." Elvis's voice was still indifferent, as if he did not care, but asked carefully, "Then, what about you, Jean?" Gu Mengmeng smiled helplessly and shook her head. "Is this joke not over yet? Didn't I tell you that this is just a story and there is no such person? Even if there is, his female is called Kong Moi Ian and not Gu Mengmeng." Silence. Another long period of silence. Just when Gu Mengmeng almost thought that Elvis had left, Elvis finally asked, "Then, what about me?" This time, it was Gu Mengmeng's turn to be at a loss. Her hand that was fastening the shoulder straps suddenly stopped, not knowing how to answer this question. Time seemed to have stopped and Gu Mengmeng's mind kept repeating Elvis's sentence, "What about me?" This was a simple question made up of 3 words, but she did not know how to answer. Elvis turned around and walked over from behind the rock. He took over the little shoulder strap from Gu Mengmeng's hands and fastened it for her. He said while fastening it, "You are now in Saint Nazaire, you just need to follow the rules here." Gu Mengmeng still did not say a word. She just looked up at Elvis's backlit face. Chapter 145. Elvis didn't wait for Gu Mengmeng's reply and just carried the neatly dressed Gu Mengmeng into his arms with one hand while using the other to carry her old clothes. These were supposed to be thrown away, but she said she wanted to wash them before using them and he agreed to it. Leah transformed into a snow fox as promised and waited for them not far away. He heard the conversation between Gu Mengmeng and Elvis. It was undeniable that he felt a sense of beauty in his heart. The only one, such an unattainable word, yet Gu Mengmeng said, she wanted to give it to him. In this beast world, which male could resist such a temptation? However, Leah was very clear that he could not protect Gu Mengmeng by himself. When Gu Mengmeng's identity was exposed one day, the beast world would definitely be in chaos. By then, how could he protect her while facing the enemies? But even if it could not be realized, Leah felt that it was enough with Gu Mengmeng's words. "Let Leah carry me." Gu Mengmeng felt a little awkward, she did not know how to face Elvis now. Elvis's spine obviously stiffened, but he did not say anything and just placed Gu Mengmeng on Lee's back. Then he said, "You guys go to Sandy's place first, I will go back and dig a cave for Xiao Meng to store her old clothes. I will go and fetch you guys later." Leah replied to Elvis using beast language, but Gu Mengmeng naturally did not understand. But Elvis just smiled bitterly and nodded before turning to leave. When Leah and Gu Mengmeng returned to Sandy's cave, Adali actually woke up miraculously. His wounds had not healed, but he looked much better. Unless it was the final radiance of a setting sun, he would definitely not die like this. Sandy saw Gu Mengmeng returning and immediately went up to her. She held Gu Mengmeng's little hand and said, "Gu Mengmeng, you are too magical. Look, Adali looks much better now. At this rate, he will be able to recover in no time." Gu Mengmeng smiled embarrassedly and said, "This is Li's credit, I just moved my mouth." But Sandy did not think so. She looked at Leah, who went to ask Bode for a piece of beast skin to wrap around his waist after putting Gu Mengmeng down. She lowered her voice and said, "Leah has never treated an injury like this before, this is obviously your idea. So, Adri's survival is all thanks to you." Mimicking Sandy, Gu Mengmeng lowered her voice and asked in a breathless voice, "Why are we speaking in such a soft voice?" Sandy gave Gu Mengmeng a "you're so stupid" look and said, "If Leah hears this, I'm dead meat." Gu Mengmeng said helplessly, "He can still hear you like this." Sandy paused and looked at Leah in fear. She bit her lower lip and could not say a word. Then, she suddenly pulled Gu Mengmeng over and said, "Gu Mengmeng, tell Leah not to be angry." Gu Mengmeng laughed out loud. "My Leah is not so petty." Sandy and Leah were stunned. "My Leah." These 4 words were clearly enough to quell any of Li's anger. Moreover, since Sandy was Gu Mengmeng's good friend, Leah would definitely not hold it against her. Just like how no matter how Gu Mengmeng ordered Bode around, he would not flare up at Gu Mengmeng no matter how unwilling he was. Just like how Leah was inwardly coquettish, Sandy could not hold it in any longer. She raised her voice and asked in surprise, "Gu Mengmeng, you mean you are going to mate with Leah, right? This way, you will always stay in Saint Nazaire. Even if Yu Jin comes to look for you, you will not leave with him, right?" Aside from the topic, babies, it's hard to say about the stockpiling of chapters. Although I have been working hard, I can't release a lot of chapters every day. So, from the 5th to the 7th, I will release more chapters than the editor requested and maintain a rhythm of 5 chapters every day. Tomorrow, which is the last day of the PK, on the 8th, I will release all the chapters that I have saved up these few days. It can be considered as a small climax for me to release more chapters. As for how many chapters one can release, I am not sure. Anyway, let's all look forward to it. The last thing I want to say is, there will only be the next PK after this one. If you still want to see Gina release chapters before it is published, please try to support him in these 2 days. Chapter 146. Gu Mengmeng really did not want to continue the topic of Yu Jin anymore. She glanced at Adali who was lying at the side. His complexion seemed to have improved a lot. Gu Mengmeng could not help but admire the abnormal recovery ability of the males in the beast world once again. Did he just need to take a bath and he was already out of danger? But he was someone else's male after all. It would cause misunderstandings if she was too concerned about him. Moreover, Gu Mengmeng blushed and her eyes unknowingly looked at Leah, making eye contact with his long and charming eyes. Gu Mengmeng smiled and retracted her gaze, but her heart was filled with sweetness. Holding Sandy's hand, Gu Mengmeng replied, not leaving, I can't bear to leave my precious Sandy." Sandy hugged Gu Mengmeng's waist and rubbed her face against her chest. Her furry ears tickled Gu Mengmeng's chin and she could not stop giggling. All right, I think you were not full just now. I brought the pot over to add more food for you." "Really?" Adali's condition had stabilized and Sandy's gluttonous nature was revealed once again. Gu Mengmeng pointed at the stone pot and said, "Look, I brought the ingredients to eat, how can it be fake?" Sandy nodded her head hurriedly and her eyes lit up as she looked at the stone pot. Forgive Sandy for not having seen the world, but in her eyes, this pot had already been bestowed with the light of a divine weapon. Gu Mengmeng was very agile and did not show any mercy when commanding Bode. She handed over the tasks of gathering firewood and boiling water to Bode while she squatted at the side to deal with the fish. As they were going to roast it for Sandy, Bode had already cleaned the fish's scales and innards. What Gu Mang Mang needed to do now was to use a sharp small stone to cut the fish into a few large pieces. Then, she smashed the ginger Leah gave her and tried to cut it open. When the water in the pot was boiling, Gu Mang Mang handed the entire fish bone and head to Bode and let him keep stirring while she sat at the side to chat with Sandy. "What about me? What should I do?" Leah came forward, seemingly unhappy that Gu Mang Mang had thrown him aside the moment she saw Sandy. How could Gu Mang Mang ignore him? That pair of big eyes had glanced at him countless times. It was just that they were too shy to be too intimate with each other because there were others around. But since Leah had taken the initiative to send himself to her doorstep, wouldn't it be too unromantic if she didn't get used to it? With that thought, Gu Mang Mang leaned into Lee's arms and leaned against his chest, saying, "Of course you're accompanying me." Leah smiled faintly, his gaze gentle. "All right." Leah took the initiative to summon his large tail and wrapped it around Gu Mang Mang. He did not seem to mind that his tail had become Gu Mang Mang's moving sofa. He only knew that his Mang Mang was in heat. The ground was so cold, he definitely could not let her sit on the ground. Gu Mang Mang had always been fond of Lee's tail and now it was even more justifiable for her to rub it up. If she did not do it now, when would she do it? No matter how slow Sandy was, she could sense the subtle change in the atmosphere between Gu Mang Mang and Leah. She finally felt relieved, this way. Gu Mang Mang would stay in Saint Nazaire forever, right? They could stay friends forever, right? Chapter 147. When Bode's fish soup was almost done, Gu Mang Mang then placed the sliced ginger into the pot and waited for the pot to boil before placing the fish meat in to cook. Actually, the food cooked with only ginger and fish was similar to a postpartum meal and could not be considered as a delicacy. The main reason why Gu Mang Mang's cooking was so popular was because the structure of the delicacies here was too monotonous and lacking. As a result, the fish soup that had been cooked for about 2 hours was so fragrant that it attracted almost everyone in Saint Nazaire. But most of the males still abided by their territorial boundaries and did not step into Sandy's territory. But some females who did not have enough of courting death did not care about that. Nina and another female whose name Gu Mang Mang could not remember walked in together. Nina took the lead, walking with her head held high, as if she was strolling in her own backyard, while the other female followed behind her like a servant. The two of them walked in front of Gu Mang Mang, one in front and one at the back. Nina had suffered a few times in Gu Mang Mang's hands and the wound on her neck was still hurting. She looked around and when she realized that Elvis was not around, her heart calmed down a little. Then, she cleared her throat and pointed at Sandy's pot, asking, "Hey, lowly half-orc female, what are you doing?" Sandy stood up uneasily and replied while clasping her hands, "No, it's not me, it's Gu Mang Mang who is cooking." Gu Mang Mang knew that Sandy was used to being bullied by Nina, so she was quite surprised that she would go against Nina for her. Why would Gu Mang Mang not protect a friend who did not back down even though she was clearly afraid for her? So, she straightened her back and stood up from Lee's arms, her hand naturally hooking onto Sandy's arm. As she was not as tall as Sandy, Gu Mang Mang looked like a little bird beside Sandy, just that this little bird was a little domineering. Even before she opened her mouth, Nina's legs had already turned to jelly. Gu Mang Mang sneered in disdain and said, "Why? Are you here to apologize to a dolly?" "Apologize?" Nina's sharp voice pierced Gu Mang Mang's eardrums. Gu Mang Mang dug her ears with her little finger and asked unhappily, "Why, you beat me up and you treat it as if nothing happened? You swaggered over here because you're afraid that I won't be able to find your doorstep for revenge." Nina was afraid of being beaten up by Gu Mang Mang, and Elvis had used his actions today to clearly tell her, if she provoked Gu Mang Mang, he would kill her. Because he was afraid, his aura became weaker. However, Nina had been the first beauty of Saint Nazaire for a long time and had been pampered to the point that it had become her instinct. The arrogance that was ingrained in her bones had caused her to have an unwise understanding of herself. She thought, if Elvis was not around. Thus, he mustered up his courage and retorted, fights between males have always resulted in either death or injury. How can we blame others? He's useless and can't beat my male. Why should I apologize? Wow. As Gu Meng Meng said, she started rolling up her sleeves. Nina had seen this posture twice and instinctively knew that Gu Meng Meng was going to hit her again. He was so frightened that he took 2 big steps back, staring at Gu Meng Meng cautiously. Gu Meng Meng did not care about her. She pointed at Nina's nose and said, "Since you sent yourself to me, if I don't beat you up today, I would be letting you down." Aside from the topic, some people said that they did not like Sandy's character and that she was too weak. But putting herself in her shoes, she had been bullied since she was an adult. How could it be easy for her to retaliate after such a long time? But it was precisely this weak character that she did not give in when Nina scolded Gu Meng Meng. So, Sandy was just a soft and cute girl, we can't expect her to be like Gu Meng Meng, right? Gu Meng Meng, authorine, come over here and make it clear, what's the difference between you and me? Chapter 148. Gu Meng Meng was about to rush to Nina again but was lifted up by her waist. Gu Meng Meng instinctively thought that Elvis was lifting her again. She turned around and was about to complain when she saw Lee's smiling handsome face. Gu Meng Meng said, "Leah, why are you lifting me too?" Leah, on the other hand, poked her little nose in rebuke. He watched as she moved back and forth in his hands like a cub, hugging onto his hand indignantly as if she wanted to bite him but was reluctant to use any strength. He asked, "What did you promise me again?" Gu Meng Meng blinked her big eyes and shook her head honestly, completely forgetting what she had said just a moment ago. Leah pointed at the stone pot that was boiling water and raised his eyebrows while looking at Gu Meng Meng with squinted eyes, as if he was considering how to punish this little rascal who forgot everything after she said it. Gu Meng Meng followed Lee's hand and looked at the stone pot. After thinking for a long time, she finally remembered that she had casually promised Leah when the stone pot fell just now, something like, let him do everything in the future, treat herself as if she was severely handicapped and could not take care of herself, and so on. Blushing, she cleared her throat and swung into Lee's arms, pouncing on him. Leah caught her steadily and waited for Gu Meng Meng to order him about female matters for the first time with his eyes full of smiles. Gu Meng Meng raised her head under Lee's guiding and expectant gaze and pointed at Nina, saying, "Leah, help me teach her a lesson, all right?" "As you wish." Lee's smile bloomed like a poppy at a speed visible to the naked eye. His voice was full of charm, like a smooth melody played by a cello. These 4 simple words made Gu Meng Meng's maiden heart explode more than any other situation. Her heart was like a little beast crying piteously for food, wishing that she could hold up a support sign and shout, "Leah is so handsome, his boyfriend power is at the max." Leah placed Gu Meng Meng beside Sandy. He felt that other than his own embrace, Sandy's side was Gu Meng Meng's favorite place. After settling Gu Meng Meng, who looked like a fangirl, Leah turned to face Nina. He was clearly smiling but it sent a chill down Nina's spine. It was even more horrifying than when Elvis was pinching her neck. Taking 2 steps back, Nina said, "Leah. Leah, what are you doing? I am Saint Nazaire's precious female." "Indeed, you are the precious female of Saint Nazaire." Lee's voice was slow, as if he was narrating, "But, Meng Meng is my female. To me, she's a million times more precious than you." As he spoke, Lee's fingernails grew out one by one. Gu Meng Meng could only see his back view, but she could clearly feel his murderous aura. Not to mention Nina, who was facing him directly. She was so scared that her legs turned to jelly and she sat on the ground. She did not even have the strength to escape and was just like a dog. This time, Gu Mengmeng did not stop Leah. Firstly, she believed that Leah had a sense of propriety. No matter how scary he acted, he would not really take Nina's life. Secondly, Adali's injuries were too severe and he almost lost his life. If she did not teach Nina a memorable lesson, Gu Mengmeng felt that she would not be able to raise her head in front of Sandy in the future. After all, no matter what, he was involved in this matter. As for the third point, Gu Mengmeng glanced over and had long seen the restless males at the borders of Sandy's territory. The moment Leo launched his attack, they could no longer control themselves and rushed in together. They were already standing in front of Nina, blocking her way. Gu Mengmeng's eyes darted around. Aside from the topic, sharing a new article from a friend. Actually, it was a modern romance article covered in a layer of fantasy. Sweet pampering textbook, welcome to read it. The Domineering Little Wife of Pluto, by Invisible Stars. This was the story of a useless cultivator who became a supreme queen. This was the story of Pluto's endless pampering of his domineering little wife. Regarding the female lead, Dongfang Xayan, the daughter of a 10,000-year-old zombie king and a human, the second generation of the little princess who was doted on by all. She was a red-level student from the first school of the underworld. At the same time, she was the useless cultivator in his eyes, a troublemaker, the little tyrant of the underworld. Cultivate, cultivate, cultivate. The useless cultivator finally became a queen. Let's see how she saves the world. Regarding the male lead, Yi Lin, the supreme king of the underworld. It was said that she could choose any of the treasures in his mansion of Pluto, and he even sent himself out as her 1-month-old present. Emerging as a dark horse, he successfully captured his little wife. Chapter 149. The appearance of Nina's partners seemed to be exactly what Leah wanted. Flexing his wrists, Leah said, "You guys trespassed into someone else's territory," which is equivalent to disregarding Saint Nazir's rules. As a witch doctor, it's hard for me to pretend that I didn't see it. Nina's partners looked at each other. There seemed to be something wrong with Lee's words, but nothing seemed wrong at the same time. Based on their brains, it was impossible for them to refute Lee's words. Moreover, it was a fact that they trespassed into someone else's territory. There was no way for them to argue. Hence, one of Nina's partners crawled under Lee's feet. This was the way wild beasts expressed obedience. They did not want to and did not dare to become enemies with Leah. "We just want to bring Nina away. We have no intention of trespassing into Sandy's territory, Leah." "Oh, no, great witch doctor, please forgive us." Leah did not seem to buy Nina's partner's cowardice. He just played with his sharp claws nonchalantly, smiling faintly. "Bring Nina away." "That won't do," my Mengmeng said. "She wants me to teach her a lesson." Nina's partner was shocked. He stared at Leah with widened eyes. "Nina is a female." Lee's smile deepened. It was so beautiful that it was suffocating, but it was as if it was soaked in poison, making people afraid. "Yeah, Nina is a female." Leah twisted his wrist, grabbing onto Nina's partner who was blocking in front of him. He slowly raised his arm until the male's feet could no longer touch the ground. He kept kicking in the air but had no ability to retaliate. Meanwhile, Leah maintained his God-loving smile, saying calmly, "But you guys are not." With that, Leah tossed the male who was almost dead to the side. At the same time, he transformed into a snow fox and leaped into the air. He stepped on the stomach of the male who had been tossed into the air and leaped into the air. Then, he fought with Nina's partners who had already transformed into their original forms. Forgive Gu Mengmeng for not seeing anything clearly, because it was really too fast, about 3 seconds. Gu Mengmeng blinked, regained her composure and walked stiffly to Lee's side. Seeing Lee's clean hands and the 7 to 8 males lying by his feet, it would be an understatement to say that she was dumbfounded. Those who had transformed into beasts were obviously unable to get up. Each of them only had 1 wound on their bodies. It wasn't fatal, but it was surprisingly uniform. all the wounds were on the abdomen. Regardless of the depth, the shape was exactly the same as Adri's wound. At least from Gu Mingming's point of view, it was as though the wound had been copied and pasted. It was definitely produced by an assembly line. Leah knew that Gu Mengmeng was afraid of blood, so he chose to transform into his beast form to fight. Firstly, it was to end the battle quickly, and secondly, after transforming, the original stains on his body would be removed along with the transformation, leaving no traces behind. So when Gu Mengmeng walked over, there was not a single trace of blood on him. He was still as white and flawless as jade. Holding on to Gu Mingming's little hand, Leah asked with a face full of tenderness, "Is Gu Mengmeng satisfied with this lesson? If you want, I can also leave the same scar on Nina's body." Gu Mengmeng hurriedly shook her head. Actually, her so-called lesson was just to leave him with a bloody nose and a swollen face. She had never thought of Leah being so heavy-handed. But now that things had come to this, she could not say that Leah was wrong. After all, Adri was also injured by them to this extent. Forget it, I think they have learned their lesson and will not dare to bully Sandy in the future. Leah maintained his faint smile, but when his gaze did not meet Gu Mingming's, his smile was so cold that it was frightening. "You should be glad that you are a member of Saint Nazir, or else," Nina's partners, who could not transform back into human form, let out a low whimper in their beast form. That was their submission under the suppression of absolute power. They were very clear that if they were not a member of Saint Nazir, Lee's claw would have directly dug out their hearts, and not just scratched their abdomens. Digression, to be honest, I still haven't found the place where I PK in the book town, but when I scanned the book town's reward area, I was really shocked. I always knew that you all loved me, but I didn't expect you all to love me so much. Thank you Doraemon, Hanshi Jianlu, New Day, and our Xian baby for their rewards. I'm so touched, my babies, thank you all also. Thank you to Xiaoxiang Academy's Great Banyan Tree, Hua that you're tuning into the LoveLore Library YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.